Imagine being just a teenager, yet every step you take, every word you say, is scrutinized by millions. Now ask yourself, what if your life became a headline before you even had a chance to write your own story? Barron Trump, young, quiet, and fiercely private, has lived this reality. But here's the twist. While the world sees him as Donald Trump's son, Barron is rewriting that narrative. What the media isn't telling you is how he's flipping the script and taking control of his story in ways no one saw coming. You've heard the headlines, but what's the truth behind them? Why is Barron's silence spoken louder than words? Stay with us, because today, we're unraveling the untold story of Barron Trump versus the media, a tale of resilience, power, and an extraordinary fight for identity. Let's rewind to January 20th, 2017, the day Donald Trump became the 45th President of the United States. As the cameras flashed, all eyes weren't just on the new Commander-in-Chief or the First Lady. A then 10-year-old Barron Trump stood there, expression calm, eyes curious, completely unaware that he was about to become one of the most talked about kids in America. But here's the thing, unlike most kids born into privilege and power, Barron didn't crave the spotlight. While other first kids embraced public roles, Barron stayed in the background, silent, observant, mysterious. The media, however, couldn't handle that silence. They wanted drama, they wanted scandal, and when they didn't get it, they created their own narrative. Headlines called him aloof. Tabloids speculated about his personality, his schooling, even his relationship with his parents. Some commentators even turned him into a meme, a punchline for late-night comedians. But what they didn't realize was this: every jab, every rumor, every headline only strengthened Barron's resolve. Barron's response wasn't loud or dramatic. Instead, he chose the path few teenagers would. He stayed quiet, but not powerless. In this video, we'll explore how Barron is taking control of his own story, dismantling false narratives, and forging a path that's uniquely his. From subtle public appearances to strategic moments that left the media stunned, Barron Trump has shown us that silence isn't weakness, it's a weapon. Why does this matter? Because Barron Trump isn't just a figure in the political spotlight. He's a reminder of the pressure, the expectations, and the scrutiny faced by young people growing up in the shadow of fame. He represents a fight to maintain identity in a world that's constantly trying to define you. And here's where it gets even more intriguing. Behind the headlines, behind the speculation, lies a young man with ambitions, talents, and a narrative that the world is just beginning to understand. So, who is Barron Trump beyond the headlines? How is he reshaping his narrative and reclaiming his voice? And most importantly, what does his story teach us about resilience in the face of relentless scrutiny? Get ready, because what you're about to hear will change how you see Barron Trump, and perhaps how you see the power of silence in a noisy world. Building on a narrative, Barron's quiet resistance. The media thrives on stories, and when it comes to the children of public figures, they're often treated like characters in a never-ending drama. But here's where Barron Trump stands apart. He never played the role they wrote for him. Think about it. Every other presidential child has, in some way, leaned into the spotlight. Whether it's Saoirse and Malia Obama's graceful navigation of public life, or Chelsea Clinton's later foray into media and advocacy. But Barron mastered the art of the unsaid. His silence wasn't just quiet, it was calculated. Every public appearance became an exercise in restraint. No big speeches, no social media outbursts, no interviews. And this frustrated the media. They wanted a story, something, anything, that could fuel their endless need for clicks and views. But instead of giving in, Barron built a wall, brick by brick, shielding his life from the noise. A glimpse behind the curtain. Let's break the stereotype for a moment. Barron Trump is not just a silent figure in the backdrop of American politics. He's a teenager with passions, routines, and a sharp sense of individuality. Insiders close to the Trump family have revealed glimpses of his private life. And here's what we know. He's a sports enthusiast, a towering presence on the soccer field, often playing for private leagues. But what makes this interesting isn't just his love for the game. It's how he uses it as an escape, a way to stay grounded in a world so far removed from normalcy. He is also multilingual, fluent in Slovenian thanks to his mother, Milane. This linguistic skill isn't just a fun fact. It's a metaphor for his ability to navigate multiple worlds, the political, the personal, and the public, all while maintaining his own sense of self. And then there's his reserved nature. While most teens are chasing TikTok fame, Barron has no public social media accounts. This decision, intentional or not, sends a powerful message. You don't own my narrative. I do. The media's obsession, an unspoken tug of war. But what happens when you refuse to feed the media beast? It grows hungrier. Over the years, Tabloids have clung to every minute detail of Barron's life. They've analyzed his height, his now towering over his father at 6 feet 7 inches. They've speculated on his schooling, his personality, even his clothing choices. And let's not forget the ridiculous conspiracy theories that have circulated online, painting him as anything from a tech genius to a reclusive mastermind. But here's the twist. While the media worked overtime to build a narrative around him, Barron Trump quietly dismantled it. Consider this. His public appearances, though rare, are carefully curated. When he does step into the spotlight, whether it's attending a family event or walking across the White House lawn, it's always with an air of mystery. No excessive gestures, no staged moments, just quiet confidence. This, in itself, has become his statement. The turning point, Barron's shift in strategy. Yet, something interesting has happened in recent years. While Barron has remained largely silent, there are subtle signs that he's starting to reclaim his voice, not through words, but through actions. Take, for example, his decision to accompany his mother, Melania, on key initiatives during the Trump administration. Whether it was supporting her Be Best campaign or attending global events, Barron's presence sent a clear message: I'm here and I'm watching. And then there's his influence behind the scenes. Sources close to the family suggest that Barron has a keen interest in technology and innovation. Could it be that he's planning to use these tools to shape his future narrative? Imagine a Barron Trump who leveraged digital platforms, not for fame, but for purpose. The potential here is enormous. The universal lesson, what Barron's story teaches us. At this point, you might be wondering, why does any of this matter? Why should we care about the story of a teenager who seemingly wants nothing to do with public life? The answer lies in what Barron represents. He is not just a political figure's son. He is a symbol of resilience in a hyper-connected, hypercritical world. In an era where your every move can be turned into content, Barron Trump is a reminder that it's still possible to set boundaries, to say, this is mine, and you don't get to take it. And isn't that something we all need to learn? In a world that demands oversharing, Barron's choice to remain private feels almost revolutionary, foreshadowing what's next for Barron Trump. So, what's next for Barron Trump? Will he continue to quietly navigate the storm of media scrutiny? Or will he one day step into the spotlight on his own terms? There's one thing we can be certain of. Barron isn't just surviving the narrative, he is rewriting it. Imagine a future where he emerges not as Donald Trump's son, but as a leader, an innovator, or perhaps something entirely unexpected. The media may have spent years trying to define him, but Barron's story is still being written, and he holds the pen. Barron Trump's journey is a masterclass in the power of silence, strategy, and self-respect. He reminds us that true strength doesn't always come from speaking loudly. It comes from knowing when to speak at all. As we continue this exploration, one question remains. What will Barron Trump's next chapter look like? And how will it reshape the way we view power, identity, and resilience? Peeling back the layers, a new perspective on Barron's silence. Barron Trump's silence isn't just about avoiding the spotlight. It's a carefully crafted shield. But here's the fascinating part. What looks like distance is actually control. Behind that reserved demeanor lies a young man who is deeply aware of the world's gaze. While the media spins theories, Barron has been quietly observing. Every headline, every comment, every meme. They are not just noise to him. They are lessons. Imagine living in a world where your every move is recorded, your every expression dissected. For most of us, that would feel suffocating. But Barron has turned it into an advantage. He's playing a game the media doesn't even realize he's in. One where his silence forces a world to fill in the gaps. The media's frustration, a never-ending pursuit. Think about it. When the media doesn't have answers, they speculate. They invent narratives to satisfy the audience's curiosity. But Barron's life has become a puzzle they can't solve. And the more they try, the more they expose their own desperation. For example, consider the moment when Barron, now towering over his parents at 6 feet 7 inches, stepped off Air Force One after leaving the White House. The photos went viral, not because he said anything, but because his physical presence alone sparked conversations. Is Barron destined for basketball? What's he like in person? The media was left grasping for a narrative. But Barron didn't respond. He didn't need to. His silence did all the talking, turning their curiosity into his power. A rare glimpse, the soccer field moment. But Barron isn't always behind a wall of mystery. There are rare moments when his human side breaks through, offering a glimpse of who he really is. One such moment happened during a private soccer game in New York. Barron's team was losing, and the tension on the field was palpable. But instead of showing frustration, Barron surprised everyone. He encouraged his teammates, cheered for their effort, and kept his focus on the game. It was a small, intimate moment, but it revealed something powerful. Barron values teamwork, perseverance, and grace under pressure. It's easy to think of him as just a name in the headlines, but moments like these remind us that he's more than a Trump. He's a teenager navigating life like any other, with passions, struggles, and victories of his own. The internet's role, Barron as a symbol. Let's shift gears for a moment. Barron's relationship with the internet is unlike that of any other teenager. While most kids his age are chasing likes and followers, Barron has become a reluctant internet sensation, a meme, a symbol, a paradox. Remember the viral meme of Barron during one of his father's rallies, where he looked visibly bored. It spread like wildfire, with captions like, "When your dad's speech is longer than your allowance talk." On the surface, it seemed harmless, but underneath, it highlighted a deeper issue. Barron isn't allowed to just be a kid. Yet, here's a twist. While the internet laughs, Barron's detachment makes him immune to its power. He doesn't react, doesn't engage, and in doing so, he turns the joke back on the world. Because how can you be hurt by something you don't acknowledge? A family dynamic unlike any other. Of course, Barron's story isn't just about him. It's also about the people around him. Growing up in a family as polarizing as the Trumps comes with unique challenges, but it also offers unique advantages. Take his mother, Melania Trump, for example. Known for her protective nature, Melania has always prioritized Barron's privacy. She's shielded him from the media storm as much as possible, ensuring that his childhood remains as normal as it can be under extraordinary circumstances. And then there's Donald Trump, a man known for dominating headlines. While his father's personality couldn't be more different from his own, Barron's quiet nature serves as a fascinating counterbalance. Their relationship is complex, shaped by moments of public support and private lessons. Sources have suggested that Donald sees Barron as someone with untapped potential, someone who could one day step into a leadership role. But here's the question, does Barron even want that? Or is he quietly carving out a different path? The power of reclaiming a narrative. Here's where Barron's story takes an inspiring turn. Despite the endless speculation, he's shown us that you don't have to let the world define you. In fact, you can use their assumptions to your advantage. Consider this. Every time the media creates a narrative about Barron, they reveal more about themselves than about him. Their obsession, their need for answers. It all points to one undeniable truth. Barron Trump is unknowable, and that's what makes him powerful. But his story isn't just about evading the spotlight. It's about taking control of it. Through his actions, whether it's supporting his mother's initiatives, excelling on the soccer field, or simply walking with quiet confidence, Barron is slowly, but surely, rewriting his narrative. What's next for Barron? So, where does Barron go from here? Will he continue to live a private life, away from the chaos of politics? Or will he one day step into a role that surprises us all? There's a growing sense that Barron's silence is temporary, that when the time is right, he'll speak, and the world will listen. What he says, and how he says it, could redefine not just his own story, but the way we view identity and resilience in the public eye. For now, though, Barron remains a mystery, and perhaps that's exactly how he wants it. After all, in a world where everyone is shouting to be heard, the quietest voice often carries the most weight. Barron Trump's journey isn't just about surviving the spotlight, it's about thriving in its shadow. It has taught us that silence can be louder than words, and that true strength lies in knowing who you are, even when the world tries to tell you otherwise. As his story unfolds, one thing is certain. Barron Trump isn't just a passive figure in the media's game. He's a player, a strategist, rewriting the rules in ways we're only beginning to understand. So, as we wait to see what his next move will be, let's take a moment to reflect on what his story teaches us about resilience, individuality, and the power of owning your narrative. The evolution of Barron's public image, a silent transformation. Barron Trump's story isn't static. It's evolving, just like the boy himself. The quiet 10-year-old we saw on Inauguration Day is now a towering teenager, radiating quiet strength and confidence. But what's fascinating is how his public image has subtly transformed over the years. Initially, the media painted Barron as a reluctant participant in the Trump saga, a child caught in the whirlwind of politics. But as the years rolled on, something shifted. Barron began to step into his own identity, not through words, but through presence. Every appearance became a statement. Every moment became a message. Take, for example, his rare appearance at a charity event in New York, supporting causes related to youth education. Barron didn't give a speech or participate in interviews. He simply showed up, engaged with organizers, and quietly observed. And yet, his presence was enough to send ripples across social media, with hashtags like #BarronTrump trending worldwide. The message was clear. Barron doesn't need to speak to be heard. His actions do the talking. a moment of defiance, standing against the criticism. Despite his silence, Barron hasn't escaped criticism. There have been moments when the media crossed the line, targeting him with unfair narratives or inappropriate speculation. But one moment stands out, a moment when Barron, without saying a word, stood his ground. It was during a public event in Washington, D.C., where Barron accompanied his parents to a formal gathering. As photographers swarmed and reporters shouted questions, Barron's calm demeanor was striking. He didn't flinch, didn't look uncomfortable. Instead, he held his head high, his gaze steady. This small act of defiance, a refusal to let the cameras dictate his emotions, spoke volumes. It was a powerful reminder that Barron, despite the scrutiny, isn't a victim of the spotlight. He is learning to own it. The mystery of his future. What does Barron want? But here's the question that lingers. What does Barron want for his future? So far, Barron has remained a mystery, even to those who have closely followed his life. But clues about his ambitions have started to emerge. Friends of the family have hinted that Barron has a deep interest in architecture and design. He is fascinated by how spaces are created, how structures shape our world. Could this be a glimpse into his future? Imagine a Barron Trump who carves out a career in architecture, designing iconic landmarks while staying far away from the chaos of politics. Or perhaps he'll pursue his love for sports, becoming an advocate for youth athletics and education. The possibilities are endless, and that's what makes his story so compelling. Barron isn't following a script. He's writing his own, the role of his family, support in the shadows. It's impossible to talk about Barron without mentioning the people who have shaped him. His family, though controversial, has played a critical role in protecting him from the harsh realities of public life. Melania Trump, in particular, has been a fortress around Barron. Her decision to keep him out of the media spotlight wasn't just maternal, it was strategic. By maintaining his privacy, she gave him room to grow, to figure out who he is without the world watching. But it's not just Melania. Barron's older siblings, Ivanka, Don Jr., and Eric, have also provided him with guidance. While their own lives are heavily scrutinized, they've reportedly been supportive of Barron's need for privacy. Ivanka, in particular, has been seen as a mentor figure, offering advice on how to navigate life under constant public attention. This family dynamic, while unconventional, has created a unique support system for Barron. And it raises an interesting question: how has this blend of privilege, pressure, and protection shaped the person he's becoming? A new generation of Trumps, Barron's unique role. Barron represents something entirely different from the rest of his family. While his father is loud and polarizing, and his siblings are deeply entrenched in politics and business, Barron offers a fresh perspective, a quieter, more introspective presence. This distinction is critical. In many ways, Barron symbolizes the possibility of a different future for the Trump legacy, one that isn't defined by controversy or headlines. Instead, it could be about individuality, creativity, and quiet influence. Imagine a future where Barron becomes a unifying figure, someone who bridges the gap between the polarizing world of his family and the broader public. It's a tall order, but if anyone has a potential to reshape the narrative, it's Barron. The power of perception, how the world sees Barron. Let's pause for a moment and consider this. Why is the world so fascinated by Barron Trump? Why does his silence draw more attention than words ever could? The answer lies in the power of perception. Barron's reserved nature forces us to project our own ideas onto him. Is he shy or confident? Private or mysterious? A future leader or someone who will quietly disappear from public life? This ambiguity is what makes him so compelling. In a world where everyone is constantly oversharing, Barron's choice to remain an enigma feels almost rebellious. And that rebellion is what keeps the world watching. The final question: will Barron ever speak out? As we near the end of this journey, one question remains: will Barron Trump ever speak out? So far, he's chosen silence. But there's a growing sense that this won't last forever. Perhaps one day, when the time is right, Barron will share his story on his own terms, in his own voice. And when that day comes, it won't just be a headline. It will be a moment of reckoning for everyone who has ever underestimated him. Because Barron Trump isn't just a silent figure in the background. Here's a reminder that true power lies in knowing when to speak and when to wait. Barron Trump's journey is far from over, but what we've seen so far is a masterclass in resilience, strategy, and self-awareness. In a world that constantly demands attention, Barron has chosen to stay quiet, and in doing so, he's proven that sometimes the loudest statement is the one you don't make. As his story continues to unfold, one thing is clear: Barron Trump isn't just surviving the narrative, he's reshaping it, one silent moment at a time. Barron Trump's story is not just about survival, it's about triumph. In a world where headlines dictate perception and social media amplifies every whisper, Barron's silence has emerged as an unparalleled strength. But what does this silence really mean? It's easy to mistake Barron's quiet nature for passivity, but his story proves otherwise. His silence is deliberate, a calculated decision to keep the world guessing. Each time the media tries to define him, he resists, not through confrontation, but through absence. This isn't weakness, it's strategy. Barron has flipped the narrative. While most public figures engage with the media to control their image, Barron's approach is different. By staying quiet, he forces the world to focus not on what he says, but on what he does. And this is where his power lies. The media's defeat. How Barron turned the tables. The media thrives on stories, scandals, controversies, and clickbait. Barron Trump, however, refuses to play their game. And this refusal has left the media scrambling. Over the years, we've seen countless attempts to drag Barron into the spotlight. From speculations about his personality to absurd conspiracy theories, the media has tried every trick in the book. But Barron's lack of response has left them with nothing. Their narratives fall flat because he refuses to participate. Take a moment to think about that. How often do we see someone in the public eye completely dismantle the media's power over them? Barron has achieved this without uttering a single word. And that's why his story is so revolutionary. The turning point, a future undefined. But here's where things get even more interesting. While Barron's silence has been his greatest weapon, there's a growing sense that he's preparing for something bigger. The rare glimpses we've seen of Barron, whether on the soccer field, at public events, or supporting his mother's initiatives, suggest that he's not content to remain in the shadows forever. He's observing, learning, and waiting. But for what? Some believe that Barron will eventually step into a leadership role, following in his father's footsteps. Others think he'll carve out a completely different path, one that's far removed from politics. Whatever the case, one thing is certain. Barron's next move will redefine how we see him, and perhaps how we see resilience itself. Now, let's shift the focus for a moment. Why does Barron Trump's story matter to you? Why should his journey resonate with anyone outside the Trump family? The answer is simple. Barron's story is a lesson in owning your narrative. We live in a world where everyone is constantly under scrutiny, whether it's through social media, workplace dynamics, or personal relationships. People are quick to judge, quick to label, quick to define who you are. And yet, Barron has shown us that it's possible to rise above it all. So here's the question. Are you owning your narrative, or are you letting others define it for you? Take a moment to think about your own life. What are the headlines others have written about you? And more importantly, how can you take control of your story, just like Barron has? Here's where you come in. Barron Trump's story isn't just his. It's a call to action for all of us. If his journey has inspired you, it's time to take the first step toward reclaiming your own narrative. Start small. Ask yourself, what's one area of your life where you let others define you? What's one step you can take today to reclaim that power? Leave a comment below and share your thoughts. What part of Barron's story resonates with you the most? Let's start a conversation about resilience, individuality, and the power of silence in a noisy world. And if you're ready to dive deeper, hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications. This channel is all about uncovering the untold stories that inspire us to think differently and act boldly. As we wrap up, let's return to the heart of Barron Trump's story. It's not about fame, politics, or controversy. It's about a young man who refused to let the world dictate his identity. Barron's silence isn't just the absence of noise. It's the presence of strength, focus, and purpose. It's a reminder that sometimes the loudest voices aren't the ones who speak the most, but the ones who know when to stay quiet. So, as we leave you with this story, remember, you have the power to own your narrative. You have the power to rise above the noise. You have the power to be your own storyteller. If Barron's journey has taught us anything, it's that change starts with one simple choice: to take control. So today, we're challenging you to do the same. Reclaim your story, define your identity, and most importantly, don't let the noise drown out your voice. Subscribe to the channel for more stories like this, stories that inspire, challenge, and empower. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. And join us as we continue to explore the untold narratives that shape our world. Because in the end, this isn't just Barron Trump's story. It's all of ours. In a world that demands constant attention, Barron Trump has shown us that sometimes the greatest power lies in the things left unsaid. What will your silence say?